Record to the cloud. The worst thing we ever did was forget to record. We can do it all over again. So great. Thank you so much for joining another Coaching Agile Journeys session. Love to hear where you're from. Feel free to post it in the chat. Coaching Agile Journeys is like the first that we know of virtual meetup with Agile as a key point, and we always wanted to find some topics that were different than other folks were talking about. Like, it wasn't just for us about story points or the things. We wanted something that were like adjacent to Agile and different topics that people hadn't really touched on a lot or hadn't been hearing about a lot. So that's where we came together. We decided to share our knowledge and grow along in our journey. So I joined these sessions still after 4 years because I love them, and so that we just want to share all of our knowledge. And luckily we've got all these folks together here who love sharing and learning as well. So thanks so much for taking an hour out of your day. Please go to coachingagilejourneys.com and look up our next sessions, and our past recordings are all up there. If you haven't seen them, please browse that. And we have a YouTube channel as well. We do all of this on our own time and money, so donations are also appreciated. I saw Edwin on LinkedIn, and I reached out to Edwin because his idea of prototyping work seemed really, really interesting. And so thankfully he's agreed to come on and share his ideas about prototyping work. And we came upon the title that was like playing Angry Birds instead of playing chess, which just sounded like a really cool topic. So with that, I will let Edwin talk more about himself. And thank you so much for taking your time today to share your knowledge with us and the rest of the Coaching Agile Journeys crew.
All right, thanks Heidi. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the nice introduction as well. As Heidi mentioned, I created a platform called Prototyping Work. So I prototype in almost everything, and I was trying to prototype in this session as well, together with Heidi and John. The thing we wanted to try was this. All right, my microphone changed from my headphones to my laptop. Do you still hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so the prototype for this session was to use the annotation function from Zoom and to collaboratively coloring this drawing. But part of the prototyping is that you learn from things as well. And the annotation function didn't work for this meeting in Zoom. And I think for the next time it will work, Heidi, right?
We hope, yes. It was a setting we needed to update. So yes, we're experimenting even as we go here.
Yes, all right, thanks. So the title of this session, this event, is a quote I use regularly, and it's stated, "Don't play chess, shoot like Angry Birds instead." And in this session, I want to take you along with what I'm doing with prototyping work, but mainly why I'm stating this quote and what I mean behind that. And my aim for this session is to keep it as interactive as possible with the function of annotation. So we're going to try something different. Instead of the annotation function, I think we're going to use the chat. That's the most straightforward way to use that. And there is some brainstorming in the breakout session. But you will learn that along the way. This is not going to be so much of a theoretical story. This is going to be more hands-on, and I hope at the end of this meeting you have the tools in your reach to change your organization, change your team, your department, whatever is in your reach to get started in the change. Feel free to ask your questions in the chat. The co-host of Coaching Agile Journey will quiet them up for me, and maybe I'll try to answer them between the presentation or in some points in the session. All right, let's start. this is me in one of the photo shoots we are using at Prototyping Work. And as you can see in the quote, this is a quote from a company called Beetroot. They have a Swedish and I think Ukrainian department, and they hate hierarchy. That's what I hate as well, or hate is a big word, but I really don't like hierarchy. So that's why I started working at Incentro about 10 years ago, which was an IT consultancy company mainly focused on the happiness of their employees. And in the last couple of years, I was managing director of one of the branches, and every branch is completely autonomous. And from my first day as a managing director, I started with the route to even more happiness by applying the methods we were inspired by for self-management. So we started experimenting, failing, learning, but in the end, after 2 years, we were an office of over 45 employees with self-managed teams, completely autonomous and responsible for hiring employees, the finance, firing employees as well, and their clients as well. And my role as a managing director was gone. I was only a coach and had some roles in different teams, helping with sales and account management and things there where my specialty were at the time. But I wanted to make more impact, and the idea of Prototyping Works started to form when I was at Incentro. It started as an idea, as a platform with a lot of inspiration and practices, Airbnb-like, so you can search whatever you want, what topic you want, and it will present a lot of practices you can use to improve the way you work. But in the last couple of years, it grew from a platform, an inspiration platform, to more of a movement with much more than that. I will tell you later on. For now, I just moved from Amsterdam to Noordwijk, and I still have to do a lot of maintenance in my house, but I really love the beach here. Living here with my lovely young daughter called me Nu, and my wife Lisanne. Heidi just met her already. Yeah, and with Prototyping Work, let's dive a bit more into that. We have the mission or the purpose of accelerating world's transition to the future of work. So what I want to achieve is that the world is taking its steps to the future of work, and I want to accelerate that with the platform I created together with my partner. And for that, we have a couple of main pillars. One is we have an institute for the transition of the future of work. So we have a manifesto, we have a methodology, and we facilitate trainings to get certified prototype work participant or facilitator. So you can help organizations change in an innovative and participatory manner. We have an ecosystem of clients, we have partners and experts in the center who share their experience on the platform. And last, and that's where it started, it's a platform full of practices, inspiring organizations, measurements, but also events and partners and experts in the center of Prototyping Work. So that's my context, and we, as Prototyping Work, we train and facilitate our partners so that they can train clients and consult clients in their transition to whatever they call the future of work, because that is not set in stone in my perspective. Okay, this was one of the questions I wanted to use annotation for. So if you are a freelance consultant, an agile coach working at clients, it's about your client's organization. But my question was, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much can you change in your organization? Very curious about the answers. So you can use chat for that.
Yep, so 1, 4, 3, 7 so far. 4, 4, 5, 4, 7, 4. Bunch of 4s and 5s. 6. 1. Yeah, a couple of 1s.
A lot in the lower end of the scale.
Few in the lower, few higher, but lots in the middle too. 2, 4. So yeah, I would say overall
8.
Seems like yeah, I want to talk to the 8 person.
Yeah, there's a lot of ability to change the organization. Yeah.
Yep. 4s and 6s and 7s. I don't know if you can see the chat from where you're at.
Yeah, I can see the
Scrolling.
chat.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic.
I'm optimistic.
That's good. About you, yes. All right. Second question is almost the same question, but one slide back. I'm sorry. I have so much things on my screen. Okay. Almost the same question, but the big difference is instead of can, do. So on a scale from 1 to 10, how much do you actually change in your client's organization?
A 9.
Again.
4, 8, 5, 7, 3, 3, 3, 3, 6, 3, 3, 5, 2, 1 when they ask for guidance.
Nice.
All
right. Thanks. There's a big difference between can and do, because that's the hardest. There are a lot of ideas to improve organizations around you or in your team, but from thinking of those ideas, changing them into actually improve organization are huge differences, and that's what we came across with a lot of clients. All right, so let me share a little bit of the context we are all living in, and then I will dive deeper into the quote of "Don't play chess." So four types of things happening here in the world, and this slide, I created this slide before COVID-19, so that is one that's actually even more important maybe at the moment, because that's one of the main reasons a lot of organizations have to experiment. But those four are very important as well. So the war for talent. It's getting harder and harder to attract and maintain talents. The cost of bureaucracy. Gary Hamel, a researcher from Harvard, calculated the cost of bureaucracy at, I hope I am pronouncing it right, $3 trillion a year. And that's because of the internal politics, the meetings, all the reports that are all necessary because of the bureaucracy. That is, those costs will increase even more year after year, because there are still growing numbers of managers in organizations as well. Another thing that is happening around us is the lack of engagement. Most of the people I speak have heard of the Gallup research about engagement at the workplace. Worldwide, it's 87 of the employees, 87% of the employees are disengaged. Here in the Netherlands, where I live, it's even 91%. And I thought we were living in a pretty happy country and small country, but it isn't. And the last is an acronym I think a lot of you all know about VUCA, the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world that is around us. And you as an organization, as a leader in an organization, or the organization has to deal with all those things. And COVID-19, for example, that is also very present. Then go to the next slide. So the traditional way for organizations to keep up with the speed that is asked of them is to do a reorganization once in a while. So let's say in a period of time of 2 years, they do a reorg after reorg after reorganization, and it's like a big wave hitting the houses near the sea, near the ocean, with the movement, the change, for a lot of employees come as a surprise. And when employees work within that organization for more than 3 reorganizations, they are so tired of yet another reorganization. 2 things will happen: or they will leave, and I think that's the best scenario for you as a leader, or for you as an organization, or they will stay and create a toxic culture within your organization. So that's a really painful part of the big waves in reorganization. And in the end, what did actually change for you or for the people at operational level, at client side? Did it really make the job better? Did those employees get more responsibility, more autonomy, more purpose in their work? Or is it just one shuffle in the organization, in the hierarchical tree of the organization with some movement? So that's why I call organizations changing in the traditional manner, like those waves I was talking about, is like playing chess with very long change strategies, hiring one of the big 5 consultancy firms with their proven models and strategies, creating plans who could take months or even years before you start with your chess game, so to say. And if it tends to get hard, and multiple scenarios come into play, organization and consultants start to get in the analysis paralysis phase, where the analysis seems to be more important than the actual change. And still, the hierarchies are still in place. And I'm still talking about the chess as well. So before you start with your chess game, you are creating a strategy. Okay, how do you want to win from your opponent? And analyzing all those different scenarios within the chess game, and the hierarchies in the chess game: the king and the queen, stay the king and the queen. I'm not sure what the English name for in Dutch is called pion. I'm not sure what the English name for that is, but the ones in front are the ones who get killed at first. So that's hard. And sorry.
The pawns.
The pawns. That was it. Thanks, Laurie. That helps. And last but not least, organizational change is played as if it is chess, because it's seen as a complicated thing to change, because all those different scenarios possible, all those pros in organizations, all those processes, the hierarchies, the rules, the regulations, it's very complicated to change an organization. But it's much more than that. And I want to dive a bit deeper into that. It's not only complicated, and why chess isn't the right way to transform your organization or change your organization. That's because when you look at your organization, it's not only complicated, it's also complex. And those words are mixed up a lot. I do it myself sometimes, but I have to think about this slide for myself as well, because complicated is when you need somebody who is very skilled at their work to fix something, and when it's broken, it can be fixed by replacing that part that is broken. For example, a very beautiful engine of a probably beautiful car. If one thing in the engine is broken, I'm not very technical in engine world, so I cannot pronounce one of the things in the engine. But if one thing is broken, a specialist can fix that. So it's always when it has a cause and you can fix that, and it will be fixed. But an organization is much more than just complicated. It's also complex. It's a group of people with feelings, with talents, just like a group of birds. It's about if you change an organization, most likely people will change function and their place in the hierarchy as well, and you are changing the complex network of employees with their own talents and ideas as well. So just by forcing a reorganization based on your view on a complicated organization, that's where I almost missed it. Complicated organization, you miss the complex part, the human part. So if you want to humanize your organization, you have to focus on the complex part of changing your organization. And that's exactly what you are doing if you are looking at from the other side. Shoot like angry birds. So these are these lovely angry birds. And I have a couple of these here as well. And Angry Birds, you know the game where you shoot an angry bird to the obstacle or the opponent that is sitting on the other side of the playing field. What you're doing with Angry Bird is you aim, and if you miss, you learn a lot from that, and because you can aim a little bit different direction. So what you do is sensing and responding. And that's what you want to do in an organization as well. What is happening in the organization, and based on that, you want to respond, and you want to be responsive as an organization. And you are in the agile world, so you want to be an agile organization. And you want to follow the tension. What is the obstacle that is holding you back? So this obstacle is the one thing that's holding you back from getting to the next level. So you want to demolish this one. And because it's the levels are very small, you can celebrate small as well. So even if you miss, you learn a ton, and if you succeed, you reach the next level. So that's awesome as well. And the last one is you want to create a movement in your organization. So you want to infect all the others with the fun part of playing Angry Birds. And to make a small comparison between these two as well is that the traditional way of changing your organization is on the left hand side, and prototyping way of changing your organization is on the right hand side. So when you are in your traditional way of changing your organization, you are still in the planning phase, nothing has actually happened, and in the meantime you already have shot a lot of Angry Birds by shooting some prototypes and shooting those Angry Birds, and you learn a lot. You fail as well, but that is more experience than failure, and you succeed. So you have a lot more successes than in your traditional way of changing your organization. All right. I tend to talk really fast, so I can imagine there are a couple of questions. Let's have a look if I can find.
I don't have any questions in the chat just yet, Edwin. So if anybody has a question, you're welcome to speak up.
Actually, yes. May I ask something?
Yeah.
The question is, how can I cut my way of change to the small chunks? So, like in Scrum, if we want to develop something, this is the most difficult step to cut the stories small and independent. And I can imagine that for such a project as organizational change, this is not so easy.
I love your question. That is.
You're welcome.
That's the link to my second part of the presentation. So I will definitely answer your question later on. But if there are no any other questions, I will just continue.
We just have one. So do some people prefer chess to Angry Birds? Thanks for that, John.
Is that a question to me or a question here in the?
That's a question for you. Do some people prefer chess to Angry Birds?
Yeah. Therefore, Koert is answering that question. And yeah, the answers here in the chat are the ones that are preferring the chess instead of the Angry Birds. And the leaders in organizations, they want to stay in their position in the hierarchy. They have their ego, their status. They worked for a couple of years to reach the level in the organization. If you start changing their context, that can be hard. But yeah, that said, there are a lot of managers and leaders who would love to change, but are also tied with their hands because they are, or some sort of a middle manager or a higher level manager who have their vision and want to change the organization, but aren't able to. Exactly what Alexei, I'm not sure if I pronounce your name right, but was saying. How can you cut those big changes, those big ideas into small Angry Birds or prototypes, as I call them? That's one of the hardest parts. Yeah. All right. How do you convince senior members of a complex organization to try something new? The answer is, I think, already in the question. That's just make the change as small, and let the first change be in the comfort zone of those managers. And so if you want to give your employees more autonomy, don't just start throwing with okay, complete radical transparency. You have all the autonomy you need. I don't want to be involved in any decisions anymore. So make that small as possible, and this method is also to help leaders be comfortable in their change as well. Right. Let's move on. I will. Okay, quick question. How much of your time, of your working week, your time are you working on your team or organization? So it's all is again a scale from 1 to 10. Put it in the chat. I'd love to know if you're able to work on your team.
Can I just ask which side's 10? Is on 10 and 0?
On is 10, 0 is in. Yeah. And there is no good or bad in this answer.
So we've got 4, 6, 7, 7, 8, 5, 1, 8, 5, 8, 2, 8, 5, 7, 8.
Nice. That's really nice, and that there is no right or there is no wrong answer. The most important thing with this question is to open up a discussion. I use this question a lot in teams, in leadership teams, to confront themselves in what are you working on? Is it really working on your organization, on the purpose, on the strategy, on the long term of the organization, building on the organization, or are you just managing as a leader, or are you just doing operational stuff as if you're in an operational level of an organization? So for some employees, when you are more in the leadership, it should lean more to the 8 or 9 and working on the organization. And probably when you're more on operational level, you are more on the lower end of the scale. But you have to find the balance for yourself as a person, but mainly as a team or as a department. How much of your time you want to work in, and how much of your time do you want to work on your organization? All right. So, how to shoot Angry Birds in your organization? Now it gets fun for me. So, you start with following attention. So on the right upper side, you see an example of Angry Birds, and those little green animals. I'm not sure. I think they are monsters with a red circle around it. Those are the tensions, and there are a lot of tensions in organizational land. There will be tons of tensions to find, and you want to find the tension that is holding you back from doing the best work of your life. So that can be a pain. What is causing you pain? What is causing you to get out of bed very tired, not wanting to go to work? Or it can be an opportunity, an idea, a hunch, where you have an idea to improve something within your organization. Or, the last of the three, it can be an inspiration. You are inspired by awesome companies or teams in other parts of the organization, or you read a book or an article and you want to start try to copy that or using that in your organization. Have 3 routes to find your attention, and when you start for the first time using this method, it's more important to find a nice tangible tension than you are over analyzing to find the best tension possible, and you want to start a movement. So maybe every tension that you find is a way to start. When you have when you found your tension, time to create context. So get more information about that tension and choose the tension to use. So in this example, we are using the most right monster as our attention. And on the right hand side of the slide, you see something that is inspired by the Goldilocks principle. You wanted to define your attention that is just right, and that's very hard to define, but it is not too abstract and too systematic. For example, how might we improve our culture? That is too abstract. And if you are too specific and too uninspiring, it doesn't give you enough space to get creative. For example, how might we get our colleagues to use our internet instead of our own solutions? And just an example to be just right, how might we make our culture more delightful and convenient for our colleagues? you can use a lot of ideas within that tension. And with prototyping work, we created a canvas called the tension canvas, and it's a tool you can find on prototyping work. And by using this tool, you can define your tension and do your research. So you start by writing your tension here, and you do your research for, okay, who's affected, what is happening, where is it happening, and why is it happening. And based on the design thinking methodologies like Double Diamond, some of you probably heard of it, there's also a method called rapid researching. So generate some questions around that tension, and with those questions, go to your colleagues who are also facing that same tension and ask those questions to them and get the information you need. And with all that information you gathered around that tension, you are able to reframe your tension. So once you get another chance to reframe it to the challenge you are going to use for the next part of the process. Yeah, this is one thing you can use to cut down all those ideas to change the whole organization into a very small challenge. Okay, what is the one thing that's holding us back to do the best work of our lives? So that's the challenge. Now, when you have that challenge, it's time to generate ideas. And now in the example of the angry birds, all those different birds are the ideas. Yeah? So we have also the bomb and the angry bird. And in the game, there are a lot more. So generate ideas, and it's important to keep in mind to generate an idea that is a radical change on a not so radical scale, because we want to create an experiment, a prototype. I will explain it later on. So generate extreme ideas, radical ideas. The more participatory you do this phase, the more ideas you have, and the more quality it will bring up. And because you need quantity first, because when you generate enough quantity, quality will rise within those numbers. And when you have all those ideas to change or to attack the tension, it's time to choose which one you want to pick as a first experiment to shoot the angry bird at the monster. So you can use the impact effort map. Maybe you're familiar with it, with the with the horizontal and a vertical line stating much impact and less few impact, low effort and high effort. And you want to find the idea that has low effort and very much impact. So as radical as possible. Okay, so I have a challenge for you. And the challenge is I will make it 1 minute and come up as much as possible. So it doesn't have to be 5, it can be 1, or it can even be 10. But write down for yourself. For this challenge, I've chosen a challenge called Meetings Suck. And it's a pretty broad challenge, so and it's maybe not concrete enough, but I wanted to speak to you all, and I hope meetings suck is something you can relate to. And so maybe there are too many meetings or no decisions are made in meetings. It's not clear why the meetings are initiated, or it's just sharing information. So in the next minute, I want to ask you to write down as much ideas as possible to improve your next meeting. And if there are questions in the meantime, I will answer them.
And Edwin, just to let you know, you're asking everyone to write privately down and beyond that, there's going to be some other steps to this, yeah?
Yep. All right. A minute is very short, I understand. Time pressure will help with creativity. We will use your ideas later on. And this is one of the reasons why we started with prototyping work. Yeah, because that's platform full of practices and organizations you can use to get inspired by what they are doing to be that progressive as they are why they are nominated to be on a list. But a lot of practices you can find to get inspired to improve meetings. For a couple of examples, when you have too many meetings and you don't know what the purpose of those meetings are, why not stop for a month and see what happens after a month? Did something break? Did something fall down or something? Then the meeting was important and maybe you want to change other things. Or if nothing breaks, why having those meetings after all? And maybe you can stop that particular meeting for the rest of your life. That's just one pretty extreme idea. But what you also can do is design team roles. So who is responsible for what role in the team, and how to use that in the meetings. And so are a lot of other ideas. One of the ideas is Elmo. In the Agile world, it's pretty familiar. Enough, let's move on. So I will do that. But that's what we use in meetings as well. Okay. Time-wise, I think we only have 15 minutes. So the idea was to do a breakout for 5 minutes to share those ideas in a team and to create the next actionable step. But if you're okay, I will move on, and I will ask you to drop the ideas in chat. Maybe 1 or 2 of your best ideas you wrote down, share them in the chat so everyone can learn from each other in the chat. Dancing meetings. Assign action, measure outcomes after. Yeah. Have a drink. That's the Fika idea. Yeah. So when you need inspiration to improve your next meeting, I think this is the best way to start for you to get inspired. So make sure to copy all the ideas into your personal notebook. You can use that for your next experiment. All right, let's move on.
Edwin, I just wanted to point out to everyone, you can actually download the chat from Zoom. If you click on the 3 dots at the bottom, you can hit save chat, and that will save the chat on your Zoom.
That is a great idea. I didn't know that. Thanks. All right, so we generated a lot of ideas, and now it's time to choose one of the ideas to create that prototype with. So in this example, we used the tiny blue bird as our prototype, and to get from that idea that you had, and normally a brainstorm session with sticky notes, it's only written down in one sticky note. That is not actionable. That's an idea. So you want to create an actionable prototype, and inspired by the innovation methodologies like Lean Startup, they are talking about minimum viable product, and that minimum viable product is the smallest possible model of the actual idea you have, that you can use to validate your hypothesis. So that's a hard word to pronounce. Sorry, but I think you get what I tried to say. So in organizational change, it's not about minimum viable product, but minimum viable change. So what's the minimum model of the actual change you have in mind to validate your hypothesis? Okay, if I try to pronounce this even more, then it's getting me harder and harder every time. I'll skip that. Okay, and last but not least, you have to think about success afterwards. So how do you measure success, and what are you going to do when you are succeeding with that hypothesis? Okay, so we create a canvas for that as well. So for the first step, creating your tension, we had a canvas, and for the second phase, creating your prototype, we have a canvas as well, helping you to structure your ideas from idea to actual prototype by writing down what is the tension, why is it the tension. I'll skip this word, but you know what I mean. Designing your prototype, and here it comes to, okay, what are the actionable steps you are going to take? What are you going to do tomorrow? And what do you need to start tomorrow? And after that, what I was saying before, you want to create a radical change on a not so radical scale. So this is the canvas that can help you create, define that not so radical scale. So what can you do tomorrow? And last, when it's a success, what are you going to do to scale the impact? To get yourself moving, and a lot of teams and organizations tend to use the consensus or democratic decision-making method. So everyone has to agree that this is the right idea to move on. And for prototyping and experimenting, you want to get things moving. So you want to have consent instead of consensus. And consent, the question behind consent is inspired by sociocracy, and also used in holacracy as well. I thought. Is the question behind it is it good enough for now and safe enough to try? So when you're not actually breaking things in the core of the organization, is it safe enough to go forward, or do we all need to have our opinion about it? And in the visual, you can see here in the middle, the consensus. It's very hard to reach consensus with everybody with all their own opinions, and consent is very easy to reach, because if you don't have any significant objections, then we can move on. So that's a way to actually start moving the prototyping in your organization. So, and this is inspired by the agile methodology in rhythms and in weeks of 2 or 3 weeks, depends on your the speed of your organization. you want to shoot, you want to validate your prototype. So in organizations that are not using agile methodologies, it's very new to work in a rhythm. I assume we are here in an agile environment. This is not new, so I will skip the details on the rhythm. But what you want to do is working on your team in your sprints. So you want to focus on those prototypes within the sprints. Reserve some time to shoot the Angry Birds. And two things can happen. Or you miss and you learn a lot, or you will succeed and you can move to the next level. So what can we learn afterwards when you've shot? At the end of the sprint, you do your retrospective. For you, it's very familiar to do your retrospective. Learn from what happened. Sense what was you feeling about, and respond to that. Adjust your prototype, adjust your Angry Bird in a small other direction, and shoot again the next sprint. Or when it's a success, you want to scale. So in this example, you want to play Angry Birds with more people, with more employees. So you want to spread the word, share your best practices in the organization, and scale the mindset. It's even more important to scale the methodology and the movement than the actual best practice, because just like those inspiring companies and inspiring articles that you can read all over the internet, that worked in their context. So you can get inspired by that, but when it's working in your team, it doesn't necessarily say it will work in other teams. And that's also for the example of Spotify, a very familiar example with their squads and tribes. And there are a lot of companies who try to copy that in their organization, but just copying that, it will most likely fail. You have to find a way to implement the things that you're inspired by in your organization, and that the movement and the mindset is more important than just the best practices. So that's why we prefer scaling the mindset and scaling the movement rather than scaling the best practices. And where do you start? How do you scale the movement? Inspired by from Erasmus University here in the Netherlands, called Jan Rotmans. He is saying you don't want to focus too much on the support base. That's what leaders are saying a lot. We're going to change this, and we have a lot of a big support base in our organization for this change. But you want to focus on the motivation to change and the ability to change. So find the groups, the departments or teams that want to change and are able to change. That's where you want to start. And if that group did change and did start a movement, then you are going to the group that want to change but are not able to change. Then you can help them with that. And these groups are getting smaller and smaller because a lot of those groups will want to change in a while. But now you are focusing on the group that don't want to change but are able to change. And last but not least, I think that's the rest of the organization, probably a very small portion of the group, the ones that don't want to change and are not able to change. Yeah, so with only 6 minutes left, I would like you to start prototyping, start throwing those Angry Birds, and create the last organizational change you ever need. Because it doesn't have to start at the top of the organization. It can start everywhere. Just start throwing Angry Birds, start prototyping, and learn along the way, and the rest will get affected by the positive energy you throw in the organization. that was it for my part. I want to thank you all for your patience and all your answers in the chat as well. Maybe we have some time for some questions.
Yeah, that would be great. If you have a question, you can either just speak up or post it in the chat and I'll read it out.
So Edwin, I've got one for you. So I love this. Thank you so much for this information. And I'm motivated to go start throwing Angry Birds. How do you, obviously you don't want to do this apologetically and say, I'm sorry, I'm running all these experiments. How would you recommend to someone to present what they're doing to people who are not used to failing fast and failing often, right? So the managers who say we can't make mistakes and the organizational structures, when you start having all these experiments, how do you recommend you talk to those who are not used to experimenting rapidly like this, who are more chess masters?
The best way is to let them experience that, but that's the most easy answer you can get. Yeah, but I think it is true. Give them the opportunity to learn and make it as small as possible. And I hear a lot of organizations, yeah, failure is not an option, but they're not true to themselves because they do fail. Otherwise, they wouldn't have learned, and otherwise, you as a person wouldn't get where you are at the moment. So, so it's not about failure; it's about learning. So I think that's a mindset a change you have to focus on, and just involve them in your change. Yeah.
I think you skipped through it quickly, but I did catch a blink of a card that you were holding up that said something like failure is part of success. Was it?
Yeah, that's true. Because in the example of throwing Angry Birds, when you miss, it's not a failure. When you miss, you get a lot of experience in why did you miss, what happened. Maybe you missed by just a millimeter, and you can reach it the next sprint as well. So that's true, Ken. Thanks.
Sure. Well, I was just thinking maybe there's a way to be tentative, offering the idea as a possibility to say, hey, what if we tried such and such? And they had people to talk about, their fears, their hopes, what's the best, what's the worst that could happen, or maybe the unknowns. I did somehow to nurture that experimental learning mindset when people are afraid to speak up or when they're not sure about proposing an idea, to kind of put it out there tentatively. What have you found to be an effective way to do that in your dialogues?
Not sure if I understand your question right. So when people are hesitant to start experimenting, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like we were saying, just start small. Start in your own environment. What can you change? Try to be brave. Try to find the smallest possible tension you want to fix, and let that motivate you to start the next iteration of experiments. And so that's why I started with finding the tension. It's more important to find the tension that is suited for the first iteration than to find the biggest obstacle you are facing, because that can be scary. Changing the purpose of an organization, for example, you're not going to start changing that in the first iteration. You want to start small.
Right.
I've got a question, Edwin. Yeah, do you have any stories about successes that you've had with organizations kind of doing this change in this sort of way, sort of taking it as experiment at a time? Kind of what stories have you got?
Yeah, the company I'm helping at the moment, is a development company working agile already. So they're used to working agile on operational level. So the managers they would love the teams to work agile, but themselves don't want to change, or a familiar story. And they were inspired by holacracy, and they thought, oh, that autonomy and those circles, we love that, but how are we going to start? Because it's also scary as well. So that's what I said. Okay, let's start with just 2 teams, just experiment, and we're not going to start with full force holacracy. We're going to start with, okay, let's work on the team and find out what are the biggest tensions we are facing at the moment. And those teams are using the Angry Birds analogy so much that the rest of the organization already heard of the Angry Birds, but don't know the story behind it. So it's already spreading, and a lot of best practices are also spreading to other teams. And the management team was behind, so they were okay with me helping those teams with their engagement in the organization. But were a bit hesitant to start the movement in the organization. And then the 2 teams I was helping pitched to the management team, okay, this is okay, we need to go forward, and we need you to change, and I want you to start prototyping as well, so hire Edwin for your team as well. So that was, yeah, that's I loved the most. And the rest of the organization was already starting using prototyping as well.
Edwin, thank you so much for your topic today. This was really, really great, interesting stuff, and we got so much participation from our audience. Thank you everyone for joining. Our next session is a Lean Coffee on the 10th of August, and then we have Craig Cockburn on August 17th. We'll post the slides and the recording on our website. So until we see you again, have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Everyone. Thank you, Edwin. I've just turned off your video sharing.
Thanks.
It's really cool. Thank you, though.
You're welcome.
I'm going to stop the recording as well.
Yeah, sounds good.